Let's do it.
Hello and welcome to episode 57 of Keeping It Real with TNO. I'm Coach Lori here at the Unstoppable, I can't talk this guy, Coach Ty. We brought in Coach Tim today. We're going to deep dive into insulin, A1C, and glycation.
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. But before we go into that, first of all, this episode is going to be important for so many reasons because we're going to be doing this deep dive into the facts so all of the viewers can understand what they can do to keep themselves out of metabolic dysfunction. That is going to be huge, as well as minimizing oxidative stress and honestly just living better lives. What we're going to be talking about is more of the causes of issues with the body as opposed to just the symptoms. And we're going to make that very, very clear as we talk about that. But for the members here, February 14th, Valentine's Day. It's not just a day to spend with your spouse. It's a day to come to the gym for Member Appreciation Day. For those of you who were here for our anniversary party, it's going to be very, very similar. There's going to be people here. There's going to be vendors. It's going to be an amazing time. So we hope to see you guys next Saturday, February 14th. What's the time, Lori?
Well, we have the 8 and 9 a.m. classes in advance, and the vendors will be set up from 8:30 to like 12:30 to 1.
Okay.
Lots of services.
Because we love you.
It's
it. It's Valentine's Day.
Free guest day. So I'm going to be passing out Valentines to members to give to someone that they want to join them on Valentine's Day. How cute is that?
Absolutely.
You need to buy
Share the love with a friend.
Sure, it's exactly it. Yeah. So don't miss it.
Yeah, you guys don't want to miss that. Please come out. Again, that's going to be Valentine's Day, February 14th, next Saturday.
Perfect. All right. So I'm super excited for the event and I'm excited for this podcast. So a little bit of a backstory. Tim's book has a lot on glycation. And so we talk about this a lot. And a few weeks ago, Hollis, who owns Metfix Santa Cruz, right? Amazing guy, level 4 CrossFit coach. He's the only one I know in person. Like I know him, love him, wrote this amazing article. I will put it up and share it on our social media so people can read the whole thing. And it's like, you know what? It was so important that our Monday Fix was about looking at someone's actual blood work, where the A1C was pretty decent, nowhere close to prediabetes, glucose pretty good, but we could still see signs of glycation from the numbers. But the insulin was more than 2 times higher than healthy. Mm-hmm. And this helped a lot of people understand, okay, Lori has not just been running her mouth for like 365 days about insulin resistance. She's not kidding. Like my not in prediabetes or diabetes healthy blood work does not mean I'm not suffering from metabolic dysfunction from insulin resistance. So that's how this episode was born, right? So the 3 of us are going to tackle it. We're going to keep it in layman's terms. We're going to give examples. We're going to talk about things so that you can go get tested for your fasting insulin in regards to A1C and glucose, and then know what to do if the number's higher than 6, right? So forget what you heard. I'm like, it's good it has to be under 6 from a functional perspective of medicine and how bodies work. Okay. So we've already started with that. 6 or less, good to go. Okay. Love it. All right. So the beginning, like we just talked about, you go in and your doctor's like, it's time for your annual physical. Let's run the blood panel, which has gone from many important markers to just a few that really don't mean that much by themselves, unless one of them's really bad. So you're not pre-diabetic. Cool story. Love it. But they don't test your fasting insulin. So I don't know how hard your pancreas works to manage the glucose in the blood, which is directly there because of what you're eating. So let's start with the food, okay? We talked about it on the last episode. The standard American breakfast, what do people love? Yogurt parfaits, muffins, bagels,
pancakes with lots of syrup,
croissants, yeah, eggs, which are maybe cooked in butter, which is amazing, and some sausage, and they like pile on toast, and a ton of fruit. So carbs affect your glucose, which is blood sugar, right? So if you go in and you have a really high protein fat breakfast, which is amazing, I want that for everyone, and then you throw in 2 pieces of white bread or whole wheat bread, like you just literally told your pancreas, bruh, I need more insulin because this person just ate like 50 grams of carbs and a ton of sugar. And there's probably canola oil in your bread too. So now I'm probably not going to feel satiated 2 hours later. I'm be hungry again. And my body's just going crazy producing insulin to get the blood sugar out of the blood. I'm going to turn in energy through ATP, right? Create energy. Or I'm just going to store it in the fat cells because I have nowhere else for it to go. And this creates a cycle. So after years and years of doing this, right? Girls' night out, bachelor party with pizza, Super Bowl game, whatever you're doing, like we're constantly eating crap food from the days of the old pyramid saying carbs are great. And sometimes it takes 10 to 15 years for us to become really insulin resistant, right? It's not an overnight thing. So it's this slow walk up the mountain to diabetes from stage one of like, I'm eating like crap and I'm producing more insulin than I need to. And my pancreas is tired and my hormones are off. It's a good time to point out too, for women especially, anyone I've worked with fertility issues, all my fertility issues before I was able to have my daughter were directly because of insulin resistance. So polycystic ovarian syndrome, endometriosis, really shitty menopause symptoms, like your hormones are jacked. And unless you, A, demand your doctor to run the fasting insulin, or B, go to ultralabtest.com and pay $45 for suspected insulin resistance, we're not going to have the number. So we're not going to know where you're at. We're not going to know if it's a problem or if you're just skipping away or sauntering towards diabetes. So that's why insulin resistance is like step one. It is the starting point. And that A1C, like Tim pointed out when we were talking about this before, like it's a downstream effect of the insulin resistance, right?
Yeah.
So that's the basis of it.
So really quick, let's just say, hey, Lori, I'd like to get tested. How do these tests usually work? So say that I go to the website that you recommended. What are the steps? How do I take this? Yeah.
So you'll create your own, like it's your account. Just like you created an Amazon account. Create your account. Use your email that you're actually going to check and get because they send you the results directly. Mm-hmm. And then because I just told you it's called suspected insulin resistance, you don't even have to search. Type that in and then you'll buy it. Okay. There's always coupons too. And then after you buy it, you can book through Quest or LabCorp and you can set up your fasting appointment. 12 hours is good. Do a 12-hour fast for the insulin. And if you're in the San Ramon area, there's 2 Safeways in town on both sides of town. Stonebridge Quest generally has dates sooner rather than later. So if you want to get it done quickly within the next week, we do a 10-minute, 12-minute drive out towards Stonebridge Mall. So it's a Quest on the outskirts of that. And then you actually get your results on ultralabtest.com.
Oh, really?
So like if I signed in now on my phone, we're using it to record, so I can't. I could open it and click on Lori Hill, and I could show you that my last fasting insulin is 3.2. Stellar.
Which is under that 6.9.
Oh yeah, it's a great, like that. I'm very happy with that. Like to be in that like free range is how I can look the way I look and feel the way I feel.
In general, it's much easier and faster to go into these labs than it is to go to your doctor. It's like it's so much faster, so much a better experience overall.
So much less bullshit trying to justify why you pay for insurance and you want this fucking test for it. Like, it drives me bonkers. Like, so then I tell people, okay, tell your doctor's Kaiser. It's always Kaiser. So we'll just say the K word out loud. Kaiser's like, there's no such test, or we don't need to do that. Some doctors don't know there's a test for it, which is really mind-blowing to me. So then you say, then I need you to put in my file that you were refusing to run this. And now I have to go to a different lab to have this basic test run for me. And then 50% of the time they'll do it. But the other 50% of the time, you're too scared to just speak up for yourself with the doctor, which you shouldn't be. Get your test right.
I'm not too sure if they're okay when you say that, no, I put that in my file. They're like, oh, I'm not sure about that now.
Yeah.
Maybe I should run that.
You come back like severely insulin resistant and you have all these illnesses they just keep prescribing shit for instead of fixing. Now you can look back and say, it wasn't until I asked for this that we knew what was driving the thing that has me on 7 different medications.
Yeah.
This is how we fix things. We get back to the root cause.
Quick question for you. I think it might be good for people to understand the difference between a fasting insulin test and an HbA1c or an A1C test on that. So did you want to give a quick thing on that? Or
Yeah. So A1C is
I
a
was gonna-
90-day picture. Huh?
Oh, never mind. No.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Oh no. Yeah, you're
Oh,
right.
that's what
I thought I was going to be
you're
doing the A1C stuff. The world.
I know. You
Oh.
kind of skipped a little
I
bit.
jumped over. Sorry, I'm jumping
It's okay.
around.
So
I didn't
we'll
follow script.
we'll go into that and then we'll talk about the difference. Go ahead.
Oh,
Tim, jump
Take it
in.
away. I'm getting excited.
It's all
you know how it is.
Oh, I like the testing.
Testing is good.
So now we're going to be moving along, guys, to those downstream markers, and that's what Tim and Lori had just mentioned. It's going to be the A1C and the glucose. So they'll still tell us things, but let's kind of go into those. So first of all, if we acknowledge that A1C and glucose are downstream markers, and that the prevention really starts at the insulin level, what information can we still glean from the A1C or the glucose number that's higher than we'd like, but not yet in that diabetic? So what is the body already telling us at this stage? Number one, A1C and glucose is downstream markers. Rising glucose or A1C means compensation is failing. So when these numbers start to climb, it indicates that the pancreas can no longer keep up with the insulin demand. This is a late stage of insulin resistance. So if we're looking at that numbers, is it fair to assume that most of the damage is damn near ramped up
It's been
and done?
building for quite some time. Yeah. The insulin resistance is not an overnight thing. And when we really look at metabolic dysfunction, all the health issues, we can see how it does accumulate over time.
Absolutely.
So yeah, if you're like, hey, I'm at 8.7 on my A1C, but I eat really healthy. We all think we do, and so we really pick it apart, right? Then you're like, I have to make some changes. The first thing to go are the carbohydrates. The second thing to remind yourself of is that when you're eating a ton of fruit first thing in the morning or at any point in the day, your body doesn't have the discernment to know, oh, it's okay. This fructose is cool because it came from berries versus, oh, it's table sugar or maple syrup. Like sugar is sugar is sugar in the body. So that's the hard conversation to have with yourself is, am I overeating fruit? Do I need a whole pineapple every day? Like, yeah, sounds amazing. Probably we're in Hawaii and have some pineapple, but every day. And so then you really have to question, like, well, what are my habits, right?
Absolutely.
Food.
So then, and that's what Lori knows here is that these tests they already reflect damages done. It isn't a cause. So if the A1C is high, we've reached a symptom point, and the cause of that is going to be the insulin resistance that we didn't check at the start.
Absolutely.
So that's how come, guys, we're always telling you guys to take that test, because that's the worst, is to already start seeing these A1C numbers high, which most people do, and now you're already way behind the 8 ball, and that's not where you want to be. And so the A1C tells us how much glycation has already occurred over time, giving insight into cumulative metabolic stress rather than early prevention. So does anyone have anything else to add with this?
Thanks. So preventative medicine kills me, because that's Kaiser's tagline, like preventative care. Practice what you preach. Like, I run more tests and prevent stuff and roll stuff back. I actually, some of my patients are their doctors that need rolling back illness or preventing it. So you just have to remember that even if, I'm going to put this out there because I didn't put this in things to talk about, but CGMs are so trendy right now, right?
No.
Even for people that are not diabetic but pre-diabetic. And the argument with a few people with me has been, well, I see my spikes and then it comes back down. And so then I ask them, how much insulin did your pancreas have to create to bring it down? And that's the disconnect.
Yeah.
It's okay. I mean, I spiked up to 200, but then 2 hours later, I was back down to 65. How hard was your pancreas working to counterbalance your pizza, your cake, your scoop of ice cream with, custard and berries on top? Like, this is what you're not seeing. So that false sense of security of like, most of the time, my glucose is steady, but how hard is the pancreas working to steady it or bring it down quickly from?
And that's what you were talking about with it's a slow uphill climb, but after years and years, it obviously doesn't matter if you're still spiking and going higher and higher.
Yeah,
you're going to start having to deal with something.
So okay, that's something. Yeah, I think definitely on the testing and the glycation, all that. So as we look at the testing, the fasting insulin, you're testing your response to the glucose in your bloodstream, right? So you're testing the actual response. You're doing it fasting, so it doesn't take into account the muffin that you just had, right? So it's something where it's like I'm testing to see kind of how my body's doing after it's had a chance to clear.
Yeah.
At that. So this is snapshot. To me, this snapshot is a canary in the coal mine for the HbA1c or the A1C test, same thing. So as they're getting into that test, that's kind of the canary in the coal mine. Oh, I'm heading towards higher numbers in that test. Well, what is that test? That tells us how much hemoglobin is glycating. So what is glycating? Glycating means sugars are permanently bonding to protein or fat structures, is what that is. And so when we have certain conditions in the system, when there's sugars hanging about in the system, with when certain conditions happen, that'll bond to a protein. So one of those proteins, hemoglobin, that turns over very rapidly. So we can get a picture in 90 days how much of the hemoglobin has actually glycated over 90 days. Okay. So, and then I look at the hemoglobin glycation is okay, cool. So that's something there that turns over every 120 days. Great. I might be able to restore that pretty quickly, but then that's the canary in the coal mine for the rest of the body where tissues don't turn over that fast. Yeah. And so now what we're looking at is the HbA1c is a great marker to see how our body's kind of almost like aging over time, because you look at the glycation, we're forming glycation, advanced glycation end byproducts of ages, they call it. And so then that's something where, as we're developing that is starting to happen throughout our body and our collagen structures, like fascia and the joints and different things like that. So it's happening in the skin. So that's the aging of the skin where we start to have loose skin and all these other things. Eyes, you'll start to have clouding of the eyes and different things. So building in problems like that. So glycation actually goes throughout the body and does a lot of things. So these markers can tell us what our body is doing over time. So they're really great markers to look at, both of them, to see how's the fasting insulin. So how's my insulin reacting to the glucose in my system, and how much am I glycating based on the glucose that's in my system? So how much result is happening from this? So we're looking at the trail of crumbs leading to the chronic disease breakdown of body, or losing the spring in your step, so whatever it is, all these things break down over time. But anyways, we'll get that. That's kind of
the glycation. The suspected insulin resistance test on ultalabtest.com. So ultalabtests.com. That has A1C, glucose, and insulin. That's why I love that, because it's the trifecta. It's what I need. So even if my insulin is like 6.2, just barely creeping over, when I see like a 5.5, 5.6 A1C, or, low 90s to mid 90s, close to 100 on the glucose, then you're like, shit, we got a lot of problems to fix right now. It's not just, but let me say this, the problems you have all revolve around one thing, and that's what you're putting in your mouth. Like,
that's So I'm not going to steer, because I know that we are going to be diving a little bit deeper into glycation. But since you did bring it up, let's say that I'm one of your patients, and I've bought into what you're telling me, but I haven't quite made it a lifestyle quite yet. Number one, if this is just a snapshot, how often should I be doing these insulin tests or just something like that? I'm just curious.
So if your number comes back and it's like even 8, 9, 10, whatever on your insulin, I'm going to wait 100 days, because it's 90 days for the HbA1c to kind of like regenerate. So then we can test all three of them again, because I don't want us to just be drawing blood all the time. And then after that, once they're really in with the food and watch the numbers come down collectively from the first test to the retest, then 6 months.
Okay.
And then when they're really fit and like living the dream, annually, once a year.
Just an annual, almost just like you would when you probably do your physical.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question, because you don't want to be a pincushion, especially if you're a woman doing hormone replacement therapy and injecting. You're like, do I really have to get a needle all the time? No, just give me your baseline. And some people, it takes them 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 months to go in and get their baseline. And I'm like, okay, we got it. It took a while, but we got it. But we're going to check again in 100 days. Give me at least that 90 to 100 days and check. And then we'll know if you're eating as well as we think we're eating, right? Because it clears up pretty quickly. I've watched insulin drop significantly in 100 days.
Yeah. And what do you see with the fasting insulin versus the A1C and the people that you've checked as far as how does the relationship develop over time?
They all come down. So as your fasting insulin comes down, your A1C gets really close to that low 5, high 4. And then it's not uncommon. Generally speaking, if someone waits an hour or two to do their blood work, they've been up and moving. So I expect their glucose to be like 80, 82 versus the 65 to 70 I'd have on my glucose monitor I tried. But you can see they all come down.
Mhm.
And if I was good at math, I could probably do like Goodwill Hunting calculations and see the ratio.
Yeah.
I can't even add up reps in a workout, so I'm not that good. But they always come down. I never see insulin come down and things go up with A1C or glucose.
Okay.
It's just like we're all in this together for real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we can, again, see that mapping of
Oh,
where
yeah.
things are going and use the early markers instead of late markers to make changes.
Oh, yeah.
That's the way to go anyway. So I would rather do the early one than opposed to find out when it's freaking too late. They always say the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago.
Yeah. Well, think about like who generally we're working with are CrossFitters. We're a CrossFit gym first, right? For 17 and a half years. And all I want to know is if they're getting a gold star. They log this shit out of everything. The data is endless, except for the people that Tim wants to just sit down and have a talk to about. Please put in your lists and scores. There's a few people that don't care, and that's fine too. But it shows like, am I getting fitter as I age? Am I getting weaker or stronger as I age? You got everything you need in your Wi-Fi app to know that. Why would you not want to know what's happening inside your body too? Because if you're in here to look a certain way or perform a certain way, your blood work is the key to getting there, right? So we can never have enough data. And we track so much different types of data and CrossFit Standard Ramon Ethics Method. It's wild.
And like you
you're
said,
a supercomputer.
yeah, but also like you said, I'm almost sure that it does play a role that people just don't want to have to see the truth.
Yeah. And that is hard because
Kind of tiptoeing.
yeah. I mean, I know diabetics that are super diabetic, and obviously diabetic medication is nonsense because it doesn't help you not eat the food driving the glucose, right? It just makes you produce more insulin, and you're already insulin resistant. So you're like, are you going to be type 1? Is your pancreas just going to shit the bed and like check out, right?
Yeah.
But they won't change their food, and they'll just get on like 3 different types of medications. And you're like, what are you even I mean, I get it. Stuff tastes good and your taste buds change, and there's a level of addiction for some people. There's a level of complacency. There's people that have been told that it's just their lot in life and deal with it. There's so many reasons why people don't make the food change, but nothing will change in your health without the food change. And we see that in our GLP-1 users too.
Absolutely. I remember when I used to work at the prison, right before every single meal, there's something called a med line. And there'd be like 15 people who would literally just come down to get their shot so they could go and eat a bunch of nonsense.
Yeah.
And that's just like you said, they just like to mask the problem as opposed to just saying, no, bro, you don't need to eat that. And you would think at a place where you control what the food is, that you could probably fix that.
Yeah.
Like you're the source. So you would rather pay this nurse, pay for all of this medicine so this guy could still eat cake just because you don't want to tell him, it's craziness. It's craziness.
You guys got to hear this. Well, you heard it, but you've not heard this, and you guys have not heard this. I had a client that just flew out of the country and back, and she marked down diabetic meal, low sugar meal for diabetics.
Low sugar meal.
Okay. So the diabetic meal on this airplane was like applesauce, fruit. What else did she tell? It was just like sugar, breads. There were rice cakes. Rice cakes for diabetics. Are you fucking kidding me? Dude, one sushi roll for someone healthy with nothing fried on it put me up to like 190.
And this is supposed to be
the diabetic meal in the airline.
I mean, that's rampant. You know, something we're back close to 20 years ago. I did a fundraiser thing with the Diabetes Association. And, I was running outdoor boot camps, and I showed up and set up my table, paid for my spot to be there and everything, and showed up, and they're rolling out their table over there. What do you think they put on the table? I know you both know, but
Yeah.
so I'm sitting there putting up my table, talking to people about how to get healthy. And the Diabetes Association rolls out bagels, Coca-Cola, a bunch of other sodas. I can't remember what else. I think they had some
sweets.
Yeah, they had
right?
they had all these kind of sweets and different things up on the table. And I walked over to the organizer and I said, "What are you doing? These are the things that cause diabetes." And they said, "Well, if we don't put this out here, people won't come."
Dude, Tim,
Oh my God. That's the last time I ever did anything with the American Diabetes Association, because obviously they are procreating diabetes, not, I mean, the research that they're doing is not driving any change that's going to cause any benefit, and so that was
They
something.
still stuck to the old food pyramid. So I think
And so it was just this whole thing where it's like, okay, you just piled sugar on top of sugar on top of sugar,
that's
and
fine.
invited all the diabetics in town. I think there's a line from an old Alice Cooper song. You'd even force feed a diabetic a candy cane. There you go.
literally,
Congrats, people.
like I said, Tim, like Jesus Christ, when he had to kick all the people out of his father's house, he was like turning over tables, getting out of here.
He's like
Yeah.
irritated, but rightfully
And
so.
the song also said, "You'd even force feed a diabetic a candy cane, you can go to hell." And that was basically the line from the song. It's like right there. That was basically it. If you're gonna do that, when you're trying to solve the problem and you're being the problem, then go the fuck home. Sorry.
But we see that.
Keeping it real.
Well, we do. We keep it real in here.
Yeah.
I know. I don't know. I like healthcare is a self-feeding machine, because if people get healthy, then there's no billions of dollars of profits to be made off of being sick.
That's why we say this right here, being healthy, fit, managing your own life, that is the ultimate rebellion.
Goodness.
That alone. All right, we want to go into
What else on glycation, Tim? Is there anything else?
So on glycation, well, I mean, there's definitely, you can go a long ways down that rabbit hole, but with glycation, so as we look at glycation, what's going on? So is the sugars bond to things in the body, it basically can't be undone, right? So I bond up that hemoglobin, that part of the hemoglobin is done. If I bond up a piece of my collagen, that collagen structure is done. It no longer functions because it's basically hardened. In my book, I talk about it being like the insect on the end of the cane in Jurassic Park, where it's frozen in the amber, and so it's like stuck in the amber there. So that insect, you can see it, it's there. You can't break that amber down and revive that insect unless you're in Jurassic Park. Then you can make a dinosaur out of it. But other than that, it's something where that insect is never going to move again, right? And so it's the same thing with our tissue. Once it glycates, that's done. How do we get rid of glycation? Is the body recycles it. So we go through breaking it down, the autophagy, pulling it, recycling things. So we're working on all of these things that break it down and rebuilding new. Okay, so we have to rebuild new. So in the case of the hemoglobin, we actually end up, if we're glycating that heavily, we end up overworking the bone marrow that's making new hemoglobin and new red blood cells and different things. So we got that. So there are things where we're overworking different parts of the body, using up a lot of energy to try to recycle and rebuild. And so with some tissues in the body, I've been looking a lot into like fascia and elastin. So the fascia being kind of almost like an elastic suit that covers everything in your body. It covers all your muscles. It covers your organs. It's part of what makes the skin elastic, different things in there. The elastin are small fibers in the collagen that provide some elasticity and give us some of that stretch rebound. There's more of the stretch rebound, arguably, is in the actual fascia itself of a collagen structure, but that's providing a lot of that elastic rebound that keeps the skin springing back as we get older and things like that. The elastin is one that really kind of clicked for me when I hit into glycation, is that the importance of it is that's the longest structure, the longest living structure in our body that I know at this point. I'm pretty sure it is the longest one. And that one is about 70 years. And so if I glycate some of that, that one's not coming back. It was done being produced in adolescence. Collagen, months to a few years, depending on what type it is. But it's just things where these things, to me, it shows me that, hey, my fasting insulin is going up. I have glucose problem. My A1C, HbA1c is going up. So now I know that I have a glycation problem, and I'm seeing that as a problem that's expanding throughout the whole body. Okay, so now this is something where everything's glycating. I'm glycating the lens of my eye. I'm glycating my blood vessels, so I'm not my the blood isn't circulating as well, so I'm not delivering oxygen as well. It's going to affect my performance over time. And these things happen so slowly that we can't actually feel them happening, but it's just like starts to take on. But the thing you have to think of is that it can only be fixed in the amount of time it takes for us to recycle that tissue, to break it down and recycle it.
Yeah.
And so that's the cost of glycation depends on the tissue that we're talking about. And so the longer lived that tissue, that means, you can think of like people who've had certain injuries, and it's like, okay, well, yeah, kind of maybe after 5 years, all of a sudden it's like not bothering me anymore. Interesting. So it probably took 5 years for those tissues to actually fully regenerate.
And that's why.
And do that. But you were looking at glycation is kind of, doing that on a micro scale where I've had damage to all these tissues in my body, and we're trying to roll it back. And so what are the things we can do to prevent glycation are the key things that I kind of like to focus on with that. And one is, of course, keeping the sugar levels down. So I want to keep my blood sugar down, keep that, keeping that fasting insulin in order. Other things that you can do as well is those happen when we have free radicals. So that would be your H2O2 or hydrogen peroxide and superoxide that are outside of the cell doing damage. What will happen is those will kind of work with the sugar to glycate, right? So I've got these things. So those can be helped through having some antioxidant. So that would be where in my book I get into using targeted plants to help kind of keep all the signaling and everything. Some of them help kind of get rid of some of the free radicals. So it's things like vitamin C, polyphenols, different things like that can kind of help mitigate some of those damages. So we're looking at keeping the sugar down, keeping the free radicals that escape so basically they're escaping the process going on in the mitochondria of producing energy. They're escaping that. And so then when they escape, they start to cause damage. And so once we look at the that's gives us kind of a good reason to say, okay, I want to keep that in check as well, right? And so those are kind of balances. And the final thing I would say is movement is huge because movement keeps the signal moving through the body, the fluid moving through the body. So that is basically keeping those bonds from happening while I'm moving to a certain extent. And the other thing that movement does is it lowers the blood sugar. So like if I go for a walk after a meal, it's going to start dropping my blood sugar right away. And so by movement becomes a very big issue overall in maintaining that. So I can look at keeping the carbohydrate and sugar load down in my diet. I can look at learning to keep better like antioxidants and some other kind of targeted plant compounds to keep the glycation down, and then move. And moving is, of course, one of the big things that we've lost. We spend way too much time sitting and all that, and so we have even a harder time managing blood sugar because we don't move. And so those would be some of the key things that I kind of throw out there.
Absolutely. Very good, guys. So
a lot on glycation. That was great information. Ty, why don't you bring us home? What are we going to do with all this?
So guys, okay, so like we said, let's just ask this question. So now that we've got some facts here, if insulin resistance and glycation are the real problems upstream, what are the most impactful things that we can do day to day to stay out of metabolic dysfunction? That's a question that we'll be answering now. So what actually moves that needle when it comes to protecting insulin sensitivity, and long-term health.
As I drink my zero sugar today. Look at that right now. Focusing. Strength training, number one. I can't, I mean, we don't have another hour to go over all the benefits of it, but strength train.
Strength
Get under that barbell, do that. The movement, like Tim was talking about, but not just after meals, like get your daily movement in.
Absolutely.
And, you know, but if you've got a Whoop or an Apple Watch or a Fitbit, whatever it is, see that you're getting more than 2,000 steps a day. How about that? Get outside. It's like sunny today. Get outside, get some sunshine, vitamin D, walk for 10 minutes, do something to get that going. Adequate protein.
Oh, it's gonna be huge.
It's
That's a big
huge.
one.
Yeah.
We're always talking about it, but the whole adequate protein thing, guys, and that's especially big as she just mentioned, movement. Obviously, you're going to want to feed your body what it needs so that it can actually function, right? So if you're starting working out, if you're starting movement, if you're going to be doing strength training, you don't want to keep putting in the sugary food that has caused this issue, and that's where the protein comes in, because that's going to help build those muscles up and help you recover so you can continue down that road of fitness.
Awesome. Sleep. You wouldn't think about it, but what were you talking about? Cortisol and sleep.
Yeah.
And
So,
everything?
yeah, I mean, your cortisol with your blood sugar, so your sleep and your stress and all that, if you're losing control of that, it's hard to stay on top of the battle. So it's something where the sleep becomes absolutely important.
Yeah.
And so, and something that we always say, guys, back in the day, I was all about the whole fitness challenges and these little 30-day things or these little 60-day things. But the truth is, you need to find it. You need to find a way to be consistent. And we're not just talking about doing it for your January into the summer so you could eat like junk the rest of the year. No, you need to find things that are going to make this a lifestyle change. One of those things that Coach Lori was speaking about is the Netflix recipes that they offer. It's easier to make this a lifestyle change when the food that you're eating actually tastes good and you look forward to eating it. Obviously, if you're eating dry chicken breasts like you're in a bodybuilding comp from the 1990s, I could see how that's tough. That would be like eating a bike seat every night. Like that can't be maintained. But clearly, if you guys have good food, good quality stuff, using recipes, things like that make this so much easier to the point where I know times now where I'm like, I don't even know how I even ate fake food.
Oh God, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost weird. Like, dude, I don't know how I used to eat things out of cardboard packaging or plastic wrappers. It just doesn't make sense. So.
Yeah.
I can't remember. Oh, go ahead.
It's all right. Yeah, it's one of those things where I think that, it's as you start to understand it, it gets easier to avoid it because it's like, the damage is there. It's kind of like, not to walk out in the street when the bus is coming. It's like you start to understand it and you do that, and for all of us, we go through stages getting there. The fortunate ones go through one stage. I learned it. I'm done. I'm eating correctly. But everybody goes through their own stages of figuring this out and going through it. But, I love what you're saying is that, it's the end goal is we need to be consistently eating well because those damages add up, and I think that's the thing with it adds up and it's, and it's real and, you can look at it and see it, you can document it, and that's something that, it's better to avoid than it is to try to fix it because it's very hard to fix.
Can we talk about that for a minute? It's so much easier to make a switch now and avoid illness. And metabolic dysfunction leads to big things, guys. Diabetes leads to cancer, autoimmune diseases. Like,
God forbid an amputation.
Yeah. No, seriously, diabetics losing. I mean, it's like, and maybe if you've not had a loved one suffer from cancer and illness, or they're in a home when they're 70 from Alzheimer's, like if you haven't had that, you're just like, oh, these three people don't know what they're talking about. But when you see it, whether it's a grandparent, a parent, a friend, people my age, like my high school reunion, there's all these dead people that we're remembering. And I'm like, dude, we're 48. holy fuck, like, what is happening right now?
I didn't know this
So-
was the 1800s.
Yeah, no, it's like someone died on the Oregon Trail this
Yeah.
century. We're dead. Like, but seriously, I think if you look at the bigger picture and you really, like we talked about, goals for business, a minimum of 5 years out and then a 10-year. If we're just looking right in front of our face, like all that matters is that Merck's coming up in May and I've got to go run and do pull-ups. So then what am I doing after? What have I done for the long term? Cool. Way to PR Murph. Whoa, that's great. But like, do you want to be a grandparent? Do you want to travel? Maybe you're not even a parent. Maybe you want to spend your 60s through 90s traveling the world. Maybe you want to go up Mount Everest. Maybe, like you can't do it if you're living in a state of metabolic dysfunction and the illnesses just start stacking, because they do. The average person is on like 5 different prescription meds. And then they come to us and they're on 0.
And they're healed.
Every time.
Living better. They're happier. Everything across the board.
Every single time. Yeah.
Even their family life changes.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. And I think in a lot of it is that it's something where we kind of want to believe that it doesn't really have that effect. I want to think that, okay, I can go eat my candy. I can go have pancakes every morning. I can do, I enjoyed that when I was a kid. I should be able to do this, and, it's not going to hurt this time, but it hurts every time. It's one of those things where you can't, you can't decide, that, okay, this bullet, isn't going to hurt,
This one is good.
this is okay. It's like, the bullets are flying. You don't get to decide which one hurts. So, it's just like they're all going to hurt, and so it's just a matter of, getting the hell out of the way. And I think it's learning how to get the hell out of the way. And it's not complicated. It's not difficult. It's no more difficult than eating the way you eat now. The thing is what's difficult is making a decision to fix things. And that's where people get hung up, is in the decision to fix things. And, I've gone through, I go through my book, I think like 10 different diets that I've done in kind of my exploration to get where I ended up with the book. And that's something where, each time as I learned something, it wasn't that hard to do it, because it's something that's like, oh, I understand what this is going to do for me. So I'm excited for where it's taking me, rather than looking in the rearview mirror at the pastry I missed, and so it's kind of the thing, and it's kind of looking forward into life rather than looking back, is a lot of it. We need to move forward if we want to get it.
We need to eat to live, but if we're in a state of living just to eat, it's tough. Yeah, and a lot of people are like that. Like it's their identity.
Yes,
it really is. It is, and you just have to believe that you deserve to be healthy, and that you can still enjoy food. Like we eat like kings every day. I mean, the 3 of us eat amazing stuff that tastes delicious 365 days a year, 366 in leap year, right? Is that what game day? Something like that. I don't know. One of those years is different.
And a lot of it's the same as like with exercise. We have people in the gym here that a friend dragged them in, 12 years ago or whatever. And they were like, I don't really like to exercise. And 12 years later, they're, first thing in line, waiting at the door to get in. And so it's like, it's one of those things where once you understand it and once you see the benefit, it's not hard to do.
Once you start feeling the difference, it's like intoxicating.
it is.
Remember the switch when we both were like hundreds of pounds overweight, and then we started getting on the bandwagon, and then that moment where there's like, it's just like a switch. You're like, I don't feel like shit today.
Yeah, absolutely.
You didn't even realize how crappy you felt every day from the ultra processed foods and seed oils and sugar and the chips and the Dr. Pepper or whatever it was that we were eating or drinking, until it's gone and the body's kind of resetting, and you're like, I don't have heartburn anymore.
Absolutely.
I feel so good.
I feel amazing. I actually love being in my skin. That's nice.
It is nice. And nothing else can give you that.
Nope.
Because you can't buy the feeling of health, no matter how much surgery you do to look a certain way.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that no one wants to talk about. Like,
absolutely not.
You'll never feel the health that you get from doing it the only way you can do it.
Exactly.
You can't buy your health. You just cannot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just like Lori said, you could try to mask it with surgeries, or you could be the dad who goes out and buys the Corvette and tries to mask it that way.
Italian Terry's like, guys, it's 50.
But that's not going to do it. That's
It's
not
not going to do it.
Yeah.
Shit's all demon.
I'm getting old. Yeah. I think one of the things that might be important for people to look at too is Lori and Ty both dropped over 100 pounds, so they were very unhealthy in that way, different things, and now they're amazingly healthy, doing great things. But people would look at me and think, okay, he's never been unhealthy, but that's not true. I've been through some rough periods health wise in my life, and as I was going back, especially once I started into writing the book, it was like I was mapping through all the different dietary protocols I did. One of the worst health periods of my life, I could map directly to a high carbohydrate. I could map it directly to a high carbohydrate trend that was out in the late 80s and early 90s for the endurance athletes, and a bunch of other people were jumping onto it. And so it's something where the high carbohydrate eating mapped directly to a whole slew of health problems that I had. Wow. And so it's like, it was something where I ended up, I had trouble with my eyes, where I got to the point where I was driving one day and then happy that I wasn't in DMV at the time, but I couldn't read the signs on the back of a U-Haul truck that was right in front of me.
Are you serious?
And so it was like my eyes had gotten to the point, and it felt like I just wanted to tear them out every day because it hurt so bad on the eyes.
So
and I had
inflammation.
Yeah, and I went through one winter. I went through 7 rounds of the old Z-Pack of antibiotics, getting rid of bronchitis that I had, that I later mapped that back to sinus infections is where I was starting. But yeah, it all was coming back from the foods that I was eating and all that. So once I figured that out, I was able to stop it and not have those problems. But yeah, there's things where, the health, it affects each of us in different ways. I was an athlete, so I wasn't putting on the weight because I was, still moving. At the time I was doing that, I was still probably eating close to 10,000 calories a day to support my training, so it was like, it was like pretty crazy, which I always ate way more than the other people training around me to keep things up. I'm not sure. Maybe I don't chew. I just swallow when it goes through. I don't know.
Dude, we're sharing something. I fucking do. When he's like, let's split this. I'm like, Hazy barbecue, half a pound of brisket, half a pound of burnt ends. I won't even get into how 40 minutes later they had lost order and run out of burnt ends. So it's like brisket and then pork ribs, which I didn't really want. And I was just like, he sets it down. Like, I'm going to take mine right now in this little tray. Because I did not feel like being the little starving orphan on the street corner when we're going out to dinner with friends. And I was just like, I have to fight for my food with this guy.
You have to give it to him.
And I was the fat one. Like, it's crazy, right? Holy crap.
I grew up with 2 hungry brothers, so we had to work. We had to work for our food. Yeah.
The cats get nervous. Like when it's like human grade fish in their bowl, they're like, "Go!"
It's like rinse.
It's like tuna right there.
I'm just kind of curious. Let's go back to the 80s. So what was a typical day of eating like breakfast, lunch, and dinner? I'm just curious of what that high carb diet looked like.
Typically, it'd be something like pancakes for breakfast. So I'd do that, and I'd make them out of whole grain because I was healthy.
Oh,
whole wheat pancakes, things like that. And then, and actually, then it would be for lunch. It'd be like probably sandwiches with. Notice I said sandwiches. Bread on there and different stuff in there, so that'd have a little bit of protein in that. And of course, you have to use an egg to make pancakes, so there's no protein, right? Yeah. Then the other thing is that we didn't get into that one today, but we were using still at the time replacements for butter, so some type of margarine thing.
Oh no!
So that was things that you because you didn't want to have that saturated fat back then. So those were some of the things that you're putting that on your pancakes. So you're getting some fat, but with seed oils, your hydrogenated oils. I mean, there's another couple hours that we could talk about that. That's shit show on ice right there. Wow, it's bad. Those things are really. I mean, what they do as far as penetrating cell membranes and different things like that. It's like stuff that.
Don't give the whole book away.
No, I know it's on there. No, yeah, but just
Think about it. Don't
yeah,
worry.
we'll just leave it as one word. Don't eat that.
Don't eat it.
So yeah, then then typically like dinners would be, pasta, rice, have, chicken or, maybe some,
Just
some beef or whatever with that, but it would be, chicken, beef, or, we'd have fish and different things like that.
Was it lean meats? Did you have to do lean meats?
Generally, yeah, lean, you try to keep the fat, keeping the fat down under, it's like less, I think it was under 15% of your diet, something like that.
Oh,
fat.
shit.
So it was like,
We were too young. You were just born.
yeah, so it was something. And, and then I actually realized something else while I was researching stuff for the book is how damaging some raw grains can be. And I was really I'd like make biscuits and I'd eat a good chunk of dough before I would cook it, because I was like, raw cookie dough, right? I was like the raw dough. So
Let's see if we get that point.
And bacon.
But some of the
Oh shit.
some of the things that you get from cooking grains, and then ideally fermenting them if you were going to eat them, like sourdough type thing, gets rid of a lot of the toxins that are in there that, we're probably adding a lot to my health issues as well. But there's different things where I can map back, a lot of my problems that I've had through my life to that, and, different things where I've had periods of time where joint pain was increased, or different things like that. You can map it back to the diet, and it's like, okay, there it is. It's like, okay, do you really want to feel like that? And it's like, no, not particularly,
right?
Not particularly, So,
If I could avoid it, no, yeah.
yeah. I mean, I've and through my life, the most extra weight that I've ever put on is probably 10 or 15 pounds, something like that. So it's not. So that hasn't been my battle, but but she's never been in a place where she couldn't read the U-Haul truck bundles in front of her. So we all have our own problems, that we develop.
Yeah.
And the thing is you can't escape. If you're doing the wrong things, it will catch up with you in some way.
Absolutely.
It's it's kind of, you might get away with robbing a bank once, but you keep doing it for a while, eventually you're going to get caught.
Well, this was during COVID, because the mask hid your face every time. Dude, like 20 banks never got caught. Just saying, don't try this at home.
No.
But the point is that just because you're thin or not fat or not overweight doesn't mean you're not in metabolic dysfunction.
Yeah, that the rules
don't apply. Good point. Like we always joke, like Jesus has to eat right. He's not impervious to insulin resistance. Like he can get it too.
Dude, I was about to. This show. I've compared Jesus to Tim like 2 times, because I was about to say Tim went through that, so you don't have to go through that. It's like Jesus died on the cross, so you don't have to. Tim ate all the carbs and went through the process and went blind, so you don't have to go through that.
The part of the story he left out I remember him telling me this, because Ashley's had to be gluten-free since like 2.5.
Mm-hmm.
And then she and I have been gluten-free since she was basically 2.5. And then Tim would tell me how his ex-wife would add extra gluten to the bread. And then
it's protein. That was our protein.
And then how he had sinus infections for like 3-5 years with needles in his face. And I'm like, it's gluten, bro. How do you not know this? But the 80s were wild. You guys were Wild West and crazy bullshit. Guys, all the breads. Let's go.
Oh, we can't take smuggling margarine.
Margarine. Oh, God. Plastic. Welcome to Tap Plastics. That's where it is now. Nobody eats it, so they just make like
plastic. And I had chosen something that was better than your basic margarine, but it was like, it had some better oils in there originally before they hydrogenated it, but still it was the best that we knew, because the information was wrong. And it was something
still from the 50s.
Yeah, it's just different things where, we look at it, and now, as I go back through, looking at the different diets that I did, and looking at what each one of them was doing, it's like you can tell where each one supported the system in a certain way, and you'd see improvements. And then basically what happens is that most of the diets are focusing from the outward. They're focusing on the diet, not focusing on the cellular level of what's going on in the body. And so by coming back and focusing on the cellular, you can see, okay, this worked in that diet, that worked in that one, this worked in that one. How do I combine it and make something that's useful long term, that's not going to fall apart, 5-10 years down the road? When I see that with a lot of things that are even the best diets that I've tried, I find that there's typically a hole because it's too dogmatic. We need to break the dogma and start looking at compounds and how do we get those compounds, and where do we get them from? And that's kind of what the book is about. Is it's like, okay, let's look at what these things can do for us as far as these, the different compounds we're getting from animals, from plants, from mushrooms, different things. What do those compounds do? Why would we use them? Why would we include them? And which compounds are doing us harm, and how do we avoid those?
Yeah.
And that's I think the way that I look at everything as the modern hunter gatherer. And I go to the store and I find the best things in that store that will feed me. Right? If I'm in, some stores don't have as good as stuff, I'm still going to pick the best things I can in that store. I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about when I get home. I open up the refrigerator, I look at it, and I go, what in here is going to best support me in this meal? What do I need? Maybe something I haven't had for a few days that's going to add to me, as opposed to, just keep things going. So, but you're just looking at it from that kind of hunter-gatherer. Yeah, it's like, okay, this is the best choice I can make now. I go to the restaurant, same thing. It's the best choice I can make right now at this restaurant. So it may not be perfect, but I'm doing the best one I can in each situation, and just kind of looking at life as a modern hunter-gatherer. It's like, if I'm the hunter-gatherer and there's, a great antelope out on the plain there that I can kill and eat, or I can, go eat the grubs out from under the bark or whatever, it's like, I'm going to choose that. Yeah. I'm going to choose that thing, but that doesn't even compare to the grubs are going to be good for you too. But, there was nothing out there that was harmful to us, like the new things, like the foods that we have now. I mean, the foods we have now are just engineered, and there's no nature comparable, food you can't do.
Y'all want some plant-based meat?
No.
I'm gonna give you guys. Okay, here's a free gift at the end for me. Go to Costco in Danville. I always want to say San Ramon because I can walk there, but Danville Costco. I'll take away from the Costco. And your kids are eating Lunchables or they're eating sandwiches and just garbage because it's fast and easy and it's what they eat. They have, you don't even know this because it's in our fridge right now. These little, it looks like a Lunchable, but it's just one or two items. It's salami and provolone and this 12-pack of salami and provolone, good food, from it, go get that. And then they have wild smoked salmon square bites that are cut up in there, right? Wild caught. I think it's a product of Poland. Don't quote me. And then they have little chunks of whole roast beef in there. There's beef ones. So I bought a pack of each for Ashley because that's the hardest thing is she's going low carb, eating healthier things. And you're just I want to send her with the big ass glass container because again, I know we don't use plastic, but it's quick and easy and disposable, and they're not going to bitch about it, and they can carry it around their backpack. They don't have a locker, and then it's better than just the breads or the Bobo's muffins or the crappy jerky that's not grass fed. It was really awesome today. Yeah. So head down and get some.
Yeah, and that's something
that's best. It's squarely in the good. Better. Yeah.
Yeah. So and that's something where, especially with the kids, it's just you're trying to help them do better, but it's the culture has pushed so far the other direction. It's always an uphill battle, and so it's something where recognizing that battle and fighting it with skill and cunning, I guess, rather than trying to go in blunt force, your way through these things. So, basically trying to do things like that, you're finding a better food, maybe, it might not be as good as if we, had that food fresh, as far as we cook the meat fresh and, had whatever, might not be the best cheese that's in that package. But again, as the hunter gatherer, it's this is something that my child can take with them and eat, and they're willing to eat it.
Hella protein.
They're willing to eat it. You know, you've won half the battle just by learning to eat better foods in whatever, you know, from whatever source you can get, you know, so you're getting better foods. And then, you know, we just always look at, you know, is there another way for me to improve? So maybe we come in, you know, 2 months from now and there's another product that's even closer to what we really find on the ideal that's going to do that. And so we're looking at it that way, you know, or, you know, we find a way to prepare it ourselves and package it up, or, you know, whatever it is, it's at, but
that are busy.
But we're moving, we're moving in the right direction. So first, you know, we want to get the right foods in, and, you know, so we're looking at, you know, our good sources of animal proteins and fats that give us,
perfect,
you know, great cell membrane health and all these things, you know, that we need. And then we also are looking, you know, eventually we start looking at the quality of those things, you know, okay, is it organic? Is it grass fed? Is it all these things? But, you know, it's basically you need to start somewhere and start moving towards the right foods and building into it, you know. So
Rome wasn't built in a day.
Yeah. And, you know, if those things are easy for you, yeah, then go dive into it. But, you know, just basically making better choices is, you know, what I think it's all about, is just like learning to make better choices. Once we start making better choices, then we can, as we learn more, see that, oh, yeah, maybe that one wasn't so good. Maybe that wasn't the best thing. I can change that out, you know. And so, okay, but at least it was better than where you were, you know?
Yeah.
And so
That's all I got.
That's it, guys. As we always say, keep it classy, San Ramon. Thank you for watching. And obviously, Tim, thanks for being on the show.
yeah, thank you guys.
Oh, pick up the book.
Pick up that. It's coming soon.
The book's coming soon. It is, and right now in the final stages of working on the formatting to publish. So I'm trying to get the formatting done, and it'll be published.
Okay.
Hopefully. Good stuff.
Yes, good stuff.
All right.
Sorry, I left because I thought.